Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another League of Legends video. And in today's video, we're going to be doing a guide video on Pyke. So within this video, I'll be explaining the abilities, the builds, and everything that you need to know about Pyke, where he's supposed to be played, where he can be played, and what this champion is all about, and why this champion is actually currently really strong, and you should definitely pick up on him and play him. So firstly, let's get straight into the abilities, and we're going to talk about Pyke's passive, which is Gift of the Drowned One. Pyke's maximum health cannot increase except through level growth. Instead, he gains bonus attack damage. Pyke also restores damage he takes from enemy champions as gray health within his health bar, up to a certain amount of his maximum health. When Pyke is unseen by enemies, he rapidly consumes his gray health to heal for the same amount, which is a lot different to Tahm Kench's gray health, whereas he consumes his health along with the gray health going down. But with Pyke, whenever he goes out of vision, he will consume all of the gray health and turn it back to the health that it needs to be. Now we'll look at Pyke's Q, which is Bone Skewer. On the first cast, Pyke charges up for 3 seconds, increasing Bone Skewer's range up to 700 units while being slowed by 20%. On the second cast, after a brief delay, Pyke hurls his harpoon forward, dealing physical damage to the first enemy struck, pulling them a fixed 500 units towards Pyke and slowing them for 1 second. Releasing the ability within half a second causes Pyke to thrust forward in a line, dealing 115% damage and slow enemies for 1 second. Pyke also deals 50% damage to minions and monsters. If Pyke is interrupted during the charge, or if the charge completes without pulling, Bone Skewer is cancelled and the ability is put on full cooldown, but this will refund half of your mana. Now we'll look at Pyke's W, which is Ghost Water Dive. Pyke enters Camouflage and gains bonus movement speed that decays over 5 seconds. Enemies are notified if Pyke is within a close range of them. Attacking or casting abilities immediately ends Camouflage. This ability is mostly used to travel around the map and to also alert your enemies, along with trying to set up a nice little gank or to scare off the enemies as well. Then we'll look at Pyke's E, which is Phantom Undertow. Pyke dashes, leaving behind a drowned phantom. After 1 second, the phantom returns to Pyke, dealing physical damage and stunning enemies it passes through. Along with this ability, Pyke can jump over walls with this and stun any target that goes behind him when the phantom follows into Pyke. And now we'll look at Pyke's ultimate, which is Death from Below. After a short delay, Pyke strikes in an X shape, executing enemies below a certain amount of health while dealing the same amount as physical damage to enemies within the threshold for execution. If Death from Below hits an enemy champion, Pyke will blink to the center of the X. If an enemy champion dies in the X, the last assisting ally is granted full kill gold in form of your cut, and Pyke gains the ability to recast within 20 seconds at no cost. And this only applies when you're only killing enemy champions with your ultimate. If you get a kill with it, it will go back off cooldown, and it will have a small timer indicating that it will go back on cooldown very soon. So this is more like a Darius ult, where executing an enemy with your ultimate allows it to reset and allows you to use it again before it runs back onto cooldown. This is what makes Pyke really strong, executing enemies below 25% of their health, and it's really good for taking out tanks and people who are just already below the health amount for execution. Now, the one thing that you need to understand is Pyke is actually a support champion, and Riot Games released him as a support champion because I think this was something that they wanted to release as a unique aspect, as nobody really plays a support that's an assassin. I think maybe having an assassin support actually adds more to the game and actually gives more of a reason to build assassin items on when you're playing support, because there are a lot of people who do, troll builds out there playing assassins on support, and maybe Riot Games looked towards the people and thought, maybe we should make an assassin that's support, but also make them very viable and make them a high tier champion. His kit is really nice for moving around, grabbing enemies, and executing people. And the reason he's a good support is because his Q will work like a generic Q, like a Blitzcrank Q or a Thresh Q, more like a hook. His W can be used for roaming, for placing wards and stuff, getting through places smoothly, and then you can use his E ability to make sure that you can escape or you can engage on certain things, jumping over walls, jumping on the enemy. And Pyke's ultimate is just one of the best things that you could probably have on him, as usually when you're playing support, you shouldn't really kill steal your ADC, or you really shouldn't take the kills from your ADC. Whereas with Pyke, whenever you secure a kill with your ultimate, the exact amount of gold that you get for killing someone will be given to your ally also. Bear in mind, this can count towards anyone that gets an assist upon the kill that you get with your ultimate, which is really amazing. So you can get 300 gold for shutting down someone with your ultimate, and anyone else who has an assist on it, you will give equally that same amount of gold, so you'll be multiplying the gold, but amongst your teammates. Now we're going to be looking over the runes for Pyke. Now the two most common recommendations that I would provide is the tanky rune page and the assassin rune page. When going tanky, you want to take Aftershock, Bone Plating, Second Wind, and Revitalize. Aftershock is good for when you proc your E, stunning the enemy and also proccing Aftershock. Bone Plating is good to have to be defensive early game. Second Wind is good for a nice sustain along with Revitalize, as the heals will be a lot stronger, especially for when your passive is healing you. Sudden Impact, providing damage for when you engage on the enemy using your E, as it is a dash. And it also activates after using your W, because it also counts through stealth or through a dash. And then Zombie Ward can be used to bring up some wards by turning the enemy's wards or your own wards, providing extra vision for extra time. And then when it comes to the Assassin rune page for Pyke, you want to go Electrocute, Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Relentless Hunter. Electrocute and Sudden Impact helping you with the Engage and Poke. Eyeball Collection for getting executes with your ultimate and building up that AD. Relentless Hunter helps you move out of combat, and you'll be using your W most likely to engage, and you'll be using that out of combat most likely. And then secondary, you can go Resolve with Bone Plating and Second Wind. You want to stick to the tanky side while going to the assassin side as well, because Pyke scales off health and damage. So now we're going to be looking over at the builds for Pyke. And I've also constructed a new layout so you guys can see what kind of items you can build and what I would build, or what an example kind of build could be represented. So obviously, when it comes to starter items, you want to go Ancient Coin or Relic Shield. Now, Relic Shield is most likely used on supports that all are melee, but you can also go Ancient Coin if you want to get that extra coin and you want to get that extra mana, and starting off by buying 2 health potions along with that. And then when it comes to a rough selection of items, all of these items are what you can build on Pyke. Yuma's Ghostblade, Dustblade, this is the generic kind of assassin kind of items you go. Guardian Angel helping you survive for the late game. Eye of the Oasis and Eye of the Aspect are the items that you build off of the starter items, which is aka Relic Shield and Ancient Coin. And then when it comes to boots, I think these are most likely situational. If you really need to build Ninja Tabby or Mercury Treads, you go for it, and you do that with nearly all of the champions, except Cassiopeia, because she can't wear boots. But generically, a Pyke will go mobility boots, so he can roam around, and it helps with his W as well. Also with having Relentless Hunter, giving him the most maximum movement speed as a support. Black Cleaver is good from chunking off armor from enemies. Edge of Night could be used like any other assassin item. Dead Man's Plate is actually really good as well, as it provides tankiness and the movement speed passive. Frozen Heart is actually beautiful to have on Pyke. You'll get a lot of mana, the 20% of cooldown reduction, and it has a nice passive in general. It's good to have in support, as for when the ADC or someone attacks you, their attack speed is going to slow massively. Randuin's Omen and Sterak's Gauge could be also another good item alternative as a tanky item. Maw of Malmortius, considering it has the Hex Drinker passive. And you could always take support items like Knight's Vow or Locket of Iron Solari or Zeke's Harbinger or Zeke's Convergence, sorry. And then when it comes to miscellaneous items, you can always go Oracle, which is most likely what you're gonna build anyways after getting your support item built up. Always buying a control ward on back is really important. And then obviously when it comes to ending off your build, you want to go with one of the elixirs from either the Elixir of Iron or the Elixir of Wrath. And then you can decide if you want to go blue wards or if you want to stick to Oracle. And then you got an example build which has Yumu's Dustblade, Guardian Angel, Black Cleaver, Frozen Heart, and Mobility Boots. This is a kind of build that you could also go on top lane Pyke, as Pyke is not only specified for support, and I will get more in that later. And then when it comes to summoner spells, you can either go Flash and Exhaust or Flash and Ignite. But Flash and Ignite is most likely used considering he's the assassin he is, pulling off the most damage, and it's good to set up for your ultimate as well. So if you guys have any other build suggestions for Pyke, I would like to see them in the comment section below. I would really like to see and try the builds that you guys pull off for Pyke. So now before we even end off this guide, I want to tell you more about Pyke, the summary of Pyke, and what else you could do or what other things that are reliable when playing Pyke. So Pyke is not only a support champion, but he is specified for support, as Riot Games released him and wanted him to be a support champion. Like I said before, he is a support assassin champion, who's very dominant in lane after hitting level 6, as his power spike comes from level 6. Being able to execute enemies under the execution bar, as the enemy's health will then have a bar to show the execution once you have ultimate unlocked, and once the border of the health actually goes red, it means you can execute the enemy no matter what, and there won't be any resistances restricting you from killing the enemy as well. Pyke's Q works a lot like Blitzcrank and Thresh's Q. It's used for pulling the enemy, or the quick casted Q, can be used to do extra damage and slowing the enemy as well. You don't always have to go for the pull, but you can use that to always make sure that you use it as a nice gap closer. Using the close range Q stab does a lot of damage and still slows the enemy, so it's always good to use in any situation. W is most likely used for when you're about to engage into a fight or when you're trying to catch up to someone. This is also used for when you're roaming because it provides extra movement speed. And then your E is your base escape and your base engage. You can use it to engage, stunning the enemy or stunning anybody that gets hit by the water ghost. And you can use the same ability to jump over walls. So whenever you're getting chased, let's say for example by a Vi ult, what you could do is just before she hits you, you could cast the E, and then once she hits you, she'll get stunned right after. And then your ultimate is pretty much like Darius's ultimate, but it also works like Urgot's ultimate, where you have to be on a certain amount of health before you can actually use it. This is the main thing you want to use on Pyke. The ultimate is the biggest game changer that you can have on Pyke. When their entire health goes red, or when the border of the enemy's health goes red, you execute them and you get the reset of your ultimate, giving all the gold to anyone that assisted with you, and that counts for even if you get a pentakill with your ultimate and if anybody else assisted through the entire way. Just bear in mind, whenever you're using the ultimate and you get an execute, you will have a reset and it will go back on cooldown if you do not execute any more enemies or reuse the ultimate again. So this is why it works like Darius's ultimate. So you have just that little bit of time for the enemy to get within the low health, but once they do, you can reset the ability after killing them. Otherwise, if their health is too high, you'll end up doing flat damage to them, and you'll end up blinking to them. So make sure you be careful with that ability as well. And one last thing to mention is that Pyke can not only be played support, but he can also be played top lane and mid lane. When going mid lane, you can go the assassin build, just building flat out assassin items like you normally would on an assassin. And when going top, you can build tanky items. And when going support, you do a mixture of both. But to be honest, you can do that in mid lane or top lane as well. Pyke doesn't really have a fixed build, but you can always do different things with him. So there's many things to try out with him, and that's where you guys come into play, and you guys can recommend me what else you can play with Pyke, and I will try it out. So that's how we're gonna conclude off Pyke, and that's how you're gonna play this champion. But if you guys do have any recommendations on any kind of gameplay and any kind of builds and runes, please put that in the comment section below, because I want to actually try out some of these builds, because I want to do that for most of the champions, and I've done that for my previous guides where people put recommendations of what you can play and what you can do, or what kind of situations you've been in, and what else or what other tips you could add about Pyke, because it's always good for the community, and it's always good for having my comment section filled with a bunch of stuff that's about the champion. And I also want to see what kind of guides you guys want to see next. I have a bunch of them queued up, and I can't wait to get them all out. So anyways, guys, if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you guys want to see more videos like this, then post it down in the comment section below and put on your notifications. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Peace, guys, and see ya.